everyone. Welcome to the BPD Bunch. I'm your host, Zanny, and today I am here with Celine and Georgette. We're continuing our conversation from Wednesday about BPD and revenge. If this or other BPD-related topics interest you, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you do not miss anything. Today's question is, what strategies have you found effective in managing feelings of getting even and the urge for revenge?
I've definitely tried to make use of the STOP skill, which is one of the first skills that you learn in distress tolerance, which is typically one of the first modules you do in DBT to address, the really dangerous behavior that those of us with the diagnosis can display. And in terms of looking at it from a practical perspective, what that looks like for me is simply telling myself to sleep on it. And I don't always manage it, but I would say most of the time, over the past few years, I've managed to just talk myself into not trying to rationalize with myself, not necessarily trying to get into a wise mind, just saying, you know what, I'm going to deal with this tomorrow, because I always feel differently after I've slept on it, always. Even if in the moment I'm like, I won't feel any differently. I sort of have this dialogue with myself where I tell myself I won't feel any differently. And then the other part of me goes, well, that's fine. Then we'll just do the action tomorrow. Send to that nasty text or whatever it happens to be. We'll just do it tomorrow. But then I wake up and always feel so much better and so less impulsive, angry, wanting to get revenge, that it seems to have been a really effective strategy for me to have learned. And it comes from the, sleep on it phrase. And, I tried it once and it worked really well. So I'm just trying to do that. That's the biggest thing that's helped me.
My nanny used to say, everything will be better in the morning. Go to sleep. Everything will be better in the morning. And that stayed with me throughout my life. And I found that to be true. Sometimes after a BPD episode, after anything, I sometimes just know I need to go to sleep. And when I wake up, it's like a reset that happens. So I found that letting myself kind of fantasize about it a little bit, letting myself fantasize about what I would do, like carrying it through in my head is helpful to kind of get rid of it. And then another thing is like a version of the tip skill. So this was more recently. This was in the last year. I was dealing with somebody they were helping me. They were in an office and they were helping me, but I didn't like the way they were helping me. I felt like they were being very dismissive and a little rude. And they had their phone out on the desk and I could see on their phone and I could see their phone. I could see they had wedding pictures, they were recently married, and I think they were texting, and I could see, and I was thinking to myself, I was getting so angry with this person for being dismissive and not helping me in the way I wanted to be helped. And I started looking at the phone and I was like, that is such a bad idea to have your phone out right now with so much personal information that if I really wanted to, I could find out about you. And I had this, I was like, I'm going to find where this person parked and I'm going to go out and I'm going to key their car. And they're going to see me out there, I'm going to wait for her after work too. And I know a lot about this person, so maybe I'll even find out where they live, right? And I was kind of like, whoa, these are a lot of thoughts. But I was so angry. So I left that office and I went home and I was again, ruminating, fantasizing about how I was going to F this B up. So she shouldn't have done that to me, right? I went home. I put on my sneakers and my running clothes and I went and I took an angry run, running, angry run. And I was amazed. I shocked myself at how effective that was. It was the aggression came out. I was, and I found it surprisingly effective. So I let myself think about it, but then I got that aggression out in a constructive way by just kind of extreme physical activity.
Rage running.
Yes, I was rage running. So I found that, like you said, the stop skill, I find that allowing myself to kind of fantasize about it, but then I need to get that energy out somehow. And I found that was really effective.
This has changed for me a little bit over time, I think, because in the beginning, I really didn't have very much self-control at all. And so I also learned the stop skill in DBT. And a lot of the times stop in DBT is, stop what you're doing, take a step back, observe, and proceed mindfully. And I really could only do the stopping and taking a step back. I didn't really have enough skill to observe or proceed mindfully in any level of immediacy, right? It's a lot of like what you were saying, Celine, about like sleeping on it, waiting a few days, and then a lot of the times I just completely forget about it. So I didn't proceed at all. I was just like, all right, I don't care about this anymore. But I found that especially in some of my closer relationships, that inadvertently left stuff kind of unprocessed. And so I started working more on making sure that I was observing what was really going on. Are things really resolved, or am I just pushing this off? And there are still times when I need to stop what I'm doing and take a step back from a situation. But I think one of the things that helps me, especially in interpersonal conflict that's active, is focusing on how the ideal version of me would behave regardless of the other person's intent. Because I have become pretty aware of the fact, and this isn't a BPD thing, I think this is true for all humans. When we're upset, when we're emotionally activated, it's hard for us to see things clearly. And recognizing that and basically trying not to pass judgment, because I think what for me makes it hard to resist these feelings is I believe I'm correct. I believe I'm justified. I believe I'm evening out the scales, right? Making the situation fair. And that's why it's okay for me to act this way. And so imagining the person that I want to be and trying not to focus on who's right in the situation. That has really helped me a lot to deal with these situations. And I think another way I frame this is what's the most effective? What's the other person going to receive in this situation? Because sometimes I am perfectly justified in my emotion, but it's not going to help anybody if I act on the urge to lash out at them.
Yeah, it reminded me of like, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective?
Yeah, and it's not always, it's definitely not easy. I think now I'm generally more on the preventative side of things, in the sense that I've realized that when I am really mindful and present most of the time, then I tend not to even have a lot of these really strong, vengeful feelings come up in the first place, because I can kind of separate what's happening around me from my insecurities. Since it is the case that when somebody touches on one of my insecurities, that tends to be what activates me. If I'm already aware and present of myself and what's going on around me, I can have the separation between what somebody says and my interpretation. I don't immediately jump to a really emotional interpretation because I'm already incorporating my logic mind, my emotion mind, all of these things. It's hard to maintain that all the time. And I'm definitely not successful in maintaining it all the time. I even, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my therapist. I said to her, man, a few years ago, I already didn't qualify for a BPD diagnosis then. But at that time, even, I thought there was no way I could be mindful all the time. And like, I need to escape. I need to have this time where I'm not really present, or I'll just be exhausted. And it's interesting that as time has gone on, I've built up skills. I'm now at a point where, no one can be in their wise mind 100% of the time. That's just not how it works. But I feel much more capable to strive to achieve that all the time. And I didn't feel that even when we started the BPD bunch 2 years ago. So that's just to show that the way that you think about a lot of these issues will keep evolving if you keep working on it, and you can get more and more refined in your technique and dealing with some of these things as time goes on.
What's the way that you practice being more mindful?
I avoid escapist activities, and I engage in things that put me in my body. So for me, what keeps me engaged in my life is I'm very extroverted. So like talking to my friends and having deep conversations where I'm forced to think. Those are usually the things that keep me present. I have struggled with meditation because I get distracted easily. This month, I started going to a church where there is a lot of like ritual and space for meditation. And I think being in that space where the environment sort of dictates that we are still, that has helped me to practice more meditation like things in the last month. But for the most part, it is actively engaging in my life and trying to do things that force that to happen, because I can't really think deeply about what I think about something without being forced to really be in my mind and in my body. And in terms of like escapist activities, those are things like reading fiction, watching TV, playing video games. Those are all still things that I enjoy. Even just making something by myself for too long. If I spend too much time where I can kind of check out, those are the things that send me into my emotion mind, into sort of a mild dissociative state. And those are the things that make it much harder to resist urges of lashing out and revenge, because I'm not really fully aware of what's happening. And it's hard because some of those leisure activities are fun, right? But for me, I've found that they mostly just lead to me not really being here.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
I find that my yoga, so like yoga is a physical activity, but you have to be totally, for me anyway, I don't know if everybody practices this way, but I am completely in tune with my body. And it's not that my mind is blank. I'm still having thoughts. I'm still doing this, but I keep having to come back to like, and what is my body doing right now? And what am I feeling? And how am I standing? And what's my alignment? And doing that. So my yoga, for me, that's why I practice daily, because that's my chance to be mindful, to start paying attention to the signals in my body. And then I carry that through. Because now I know how to just sit somewhere. I know how to start breathing. I know how to start feeling, grounding myself from my feet on the floor up. So that's really like, I don't sit and meditate, but my yoga practice is where I have that mindfulness and that practice of, it's not emptying your mind. It's just not, it's letting your thoughts pass by. So for me, it's that physical activity that allows me to get to that mindful state. And Zanny, I want to clap for you because I guess we have been doing this for 2 years. And I remember you multiple times, especially in the past, talking about how you were working on not dissociating. You were saying like, I'm really working on this. I find that I'm dissociating. I'm trying to stop doing this. And the growth that you've had in these 2 years, I think it's wonderful because people can also see like there's not an end point, you know? So I want to, good work.
Thank you. Well, I think it's exciting. You know, if you had talked to the version of me that did all of those vengeful things, if you'd asked me then if I ever thought I would get to a point where I would be excited to face challenges, I would have said you were crazy. But now I really do enjoy being given the opportunity to combat some of these things and be put in my body. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this is one of in terms of problem solving in DBT, like there's solving the problem, radically accepting the problem. You can stay miserable or you can change how you feel about it. And I never understood how somebody could change how they feel about something, because it's not immediate. It's like a mindset shift that occurs over years of attempting to redirect something. And you know, when I would try a little bit and I didn't get immediate results, I just assumed that it would never work. And I think in terms of like revenge and vengeance and vindictiveness, it's not like I'm completely free of these thoughts or feelings, but they definitely don't carry the same level of intensity. They don't come up as frequently anymore. And even when they do, I think the urges that I have associated with them are much lower. Like, I cannot even imagine a scenario today where somebody could do something to me and my reaction would be to hurt myself and blame them for it. Because it would just be so odd. I mean, it just seems like such a foreign concept. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We hope you got a nugget of wisdom to take with you on your journey. Join us on Sunday for our BPD Bunch brunch. And next Wednesday, we will be back with a brand new discussion topic. So we will see you next time.